Welcome back to the St. Louis podcast, and thank you for joining for another episode. My name is Eric Brown. I'm president at Mogul Holdings, president at Vi Media, and partner at Mogul Holdings. Today, we have some news. We're going to talk about some things here locally in St. Louis, and of course, some national stuff as well. So we'll cover it all. Hopefully, mics aren't terrible, but we'll get into what do the people think. What do the people think? So, as always, this is another episode of the St. Louis podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, review, subscribe, leave a comment, share, do whatever it is that you can help us out here. We appreciate your support. And, of course, you can listen, watch this. We now have video on Spotify, which is awesome. You can go back, and I think for every past episode, I believe we have video now up there. And, of course, you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. So, this week's been pretty crazy with weather. I'm sure many of you guys noticed, and so was 2 weeks ago we had the tornado come through as well. So we've been dealing just with some absolute crazy weather here in Missouri, Illinois, Tennessee, across the board. But of course on, Monday, we were looking at all the tornadoes, or Tuesday, whichever day it was. Recording this here on Friday, so this will be coming out today as well, which is great. There was, obviously a tornado in Potosi, and if you guys, I think there's a lot of good areas for you guys to get, good weather news when it's like up to date. Obviously, we have great broadcasters here in St. Louis. Of course, Steve Templeton, Chris Higgins, etc. One great channel, though, on YouTube is Ryan Hall, y'all. I would suggest just going and subscribing to that anytime there's, weather outbreak. They're on top of it, and they're a great channel to support as well because they give back to any disaster-stricken areas. So tune in to Ryan Hall. Shout out them. They're great. And, it's important to get up-to-date information nowadays, especially. Because people are reliant only on, news stations. If that goes down, that's a problem. So need to make sure you know what's going on around you when it comes to severe weather. Of course, so like I said, we had 5 to 6 tornadoes touch down in Missouri per the Weather Channel's coverage of the event. Gusts reach up to 70 to 80 miles an hour in some areas. And of course, the Potosi went over Potosi, the tornado, and damaged and destroyed a bunch of stuff there as well. So if you're local here to St. Louis, please support all of those people that have been hurt or lost things. I just saw a report of a 97-year-old that lost his house, which is terrible. What the hell are you going to do at 97? So show your support locally. Support those people. I'm sure there's organizations and things that you can donate to, which is, of course, what we want. I don't believe there's any fatalities, which is good news. Not 100% sure, but obviously cleanup is underway there, and now we have to worry about the ongoing rain and flood risks. So, of course, with flooding comes into, I'm right down, and I'm pretty close to Valley Park down there, so I get to go witness the major flood that is about to occur. It's going to be in major flooding stage, I think, early or middle of next week, like the 8th or the 9th. Different areas in St. Louis, St. Charles, and, of course, along the Merrimack. And different rivers are going to be affected by this, so pay attention to those. And, of course, you can just go on Missouri's website, and they will have all of the flood stages, the dates, etc., for anyone that needs to know that, wants to know that. If you're next to a creek, next to a river, of course, that's probably important for you to know if you're in some sort of flood land, right? And, what I've been noticing, talking about flooding and why that's such issues, when it comes to Coldwater Creek is back in the news. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with Coldwater Creek, I'm sure a majority of people here in St. Louis are, and it goes back to... what was it? Atomic Homefront? Was that the documentary? Yeah. About the Westlake landfill in St. Louis County. So this was all the way back in 2017. And of course, that was filmed, obviously before that. So this has been an ongoing situation since 1973. So nuclear waste problem stems from the Manhattan Project during World War II when Mallinckrodt Chemical Company processed uranium downtown, leaving radioactive waste that was later dumped near Lamport Airport and into Coldwater Creek. Additional waste was illegally disposed of at Westlake Landfill in 1973. Decades of negligence have leaked this contamination to health issues, cancers, of course, among residents. And if you watch Atomic Homefront, a lot of these people that grew up or live in that surrounding area have a ridiculously high percentage of these cancers that don't show up very often in the average person, right? But it is super high among those people, that grew up or live around that area. I mean, people used to literally play in this creek before, of course, anyone knew about the risks that they were, encountering. So 2019 Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry report found elevated risks of lung, bone, and leukemia for those exposed to Coldwater Creek from the 1960s to the 1990s. Now, it says to the 1990s, but I believe this is still an ongoing problem, as in that documentary. And as you can read about online, people continue to have issues in that area. So the contaminated site is, of course, Coldwater Creek, 19 miles long, designated Superfund site in 1989, with cleanup projected to continue until 2038. So obviously, we got 2025 now. That's another, essentially 13 to 14 years of working on that. And then, of course, we have 38,000 tons of radioactive waste per EPA estimates, recent expansions of cleanup zones announced in late March 2025. So this was just announced, and that's for Waste Lake Landfill. In 2024, the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers found contamination in backyards near Coldwater Creek, prompting soil testing beneath 6 homes in Florissant by March 2025. Results are pending. 2023 Missouri independent investigation cited elevated rates of breast, colon, prostate, kidney, bladder cancers, and leukemia near Coldwater Creek based on federal studies. I mean, this is in our backyard, people, literally. Ongoing issues. Cleanup delays. The EPA and Army Corps are expanding Westlake landfill excavations, but the Missouri Department of Natural Resources warned on January 22nd of this year, 2025, of a high likelihood of radioactive waste in the adjacent Bridgeton landfill, where a subsurface smoldering event has persisted for 14 years. So this has been the ongoing under-the-earth fire, right? Or I guess under a bunch of trash. A fire that has been going on at the Bridgeton landfill, like I said, for the last 14 years. Residents report rare cancers, cardiac, angiosarcoma, thymus cancer. So again, all of these super rare cancers that these people are getting that are living around these areas. Post on X and local reporting suggests potential federal funding cuts under the Trump administration, such as the Health and Human Service layoffs, could hinder compensation programs like the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. RECA, expanded in 2024 to cover St. Louis victims, could potentially be at risk. So we'll have to take, we'll have to stay on that. Community advocacy, of course, again, watch Atomic Homefront if you're here in St. Louis. Even if you're not in St. Louis, I think it's a crazy story of how, at the end of the day, something that happened in the past that's continuing to affect residents, government organizations, plain and simple, not doing their job. So we have groups like Just for Moms, STL, that push for faster action, with fears like flooding could spread contamination further along Coldwater Creek, right? So bringing us back to that flood situation we're going to be encountering early to middle of next week. This is not good news for those people that live in that area. So we'll have to keep our eyes open on that. and see what plays out there. But, this is a big issue for our area. I don't even think people, and maybe people did, but Atomic Homefront really opened up the discussion to how widespread this issue is in North County. And of course, it doesn't help that this is in North County, because I'm sure, don't hate me, St. Louisans, that if this was in West County, it'd probably be getting better addressed. But that's just my guess, right? So yeah, bunch of issues there. Also, a big news is, of course, the state control of St. Louis Police Department. We'll see how this goes. Of course, I don't know about you guys, but if you guys get toll texts, spam texts about paying a toll, it's great. Just got one. So on March 26th, Missouri Governor Mike Keogh signed a bill transferring control of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department from the mayor's office to a state-appointed board, effective immediately due to an emergency clause. This reverses local control established in 2012 by a 63.9% voter referendum. The board, comprising 5 voting members, including the mayor and 1 non-voting member, is appointed by the governor and Senate approved, with the transition director to be named within 30 days and the board fully assembled within 90. So, I put together a couple pros and cons. I don't know, if these are going to be even somewhere accurate, but with the help of some tools, some AI, and some reading, here's what we got. Potential pros: uniformity in policing. State oversight could align, of course, SLMPD policies with statewide standards, potentially improving coordination with Missouri State Highway Patrol. Double jointed operations in 2024. Resource boost. Proponents argue state control could unlock additional funding or personnel critical, as, of course, as we all know here in St. Louis, that St. Louis, Missouri Police Department faces staffing shortages, despite recent raises, 8 to 13% in 2023, up to 7% in 2025. I think one of the issues there, though, is the county pays significantly more, maybe not significantly more anymore, but it used to be. It was a pretty significant difference between working in the city and the county. So if you had the option, you probably want to work in the county. And you also have to deal with a lot less shit, right? So, it makes sense. Crime reduction focus. Governor Keogh and Senator Nick Schroer framed, I probably butchered his last name, sorry, Nick, framed this as a public safety priority, citing Kansas City's state-controlled model. St. Louis's 2024 homicide count, 150, lowest since 2013, might improve further with state-driven strategies. Depoliticalization, removing police from local political influence could reduce perceived bias, appealing to those distrustful of city leadership. A lot of us in St. Louis have distrust, especially of city leadership. We talked about a month ago, and I don't even know if we have any updates, and maybe I'll have to take a look at this. But the update, as a month ago, I think we talked about this 4 or 5 weeks ago, whatever it was, on our aldermen and everyone being able to come together and distribute the funds that we received from the Rams settlement, right? And I don't know how this is going to go, so we'll have to see. But there is definitely distrust of city leadership. SMLPD does face staffing shortages, and we do need more police in the St. Louis, Missouri Police Department. I'm not sure about funding and how that affects that.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years, and in a past life, one of those was a farmers insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Via Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. Cons: loss of local accountability. Critics, including, of course, our current mayor, Tashara Jones, argue that state control dismisses the 2012 voter mandate and distances police from community needs. Good point. We want our police to be community focused. That is how you have good police. St. Louis's crime drop 15% overall in 2024 occurred under local leadership. Not sure if you can also put that into effect of our population has been declining in St. Louis City as well. So, less population, less crime. That makes sense. Bureaucratic delays. A governor-appointed board hours away in Jefferson City might slow decision-making compared to the mayor's direct oversight, especially in crises like this week's storm response. Sure, but does our local oversight really going to be any better or any faster, any slower than what the state will do? Who knows? Risk to progress. Chief Robert Tracy's success. 53% drop in shootings incident in early 2025 could be disrupted if the board replaces him, despite Kehoe's praise. The board's power to hire fire the chief introduces uncertainty. And, of course, precedent concerns. Kansas City, the only other state-controlled department, has higher homicide rates than St. Louis, suggesting this model isn't a guaranteed fix. And I believe since state police have taken over Kansas City, that actually crime has increased. So I saw some graphs about that. So really, with this, we're going to have to look at the transition period. The next 90 days will test how smoothly the shift occurs. Kehoe is vetting transition director candidates with the board's composition still unclear. Public reaction, local sentiment, per ex-post in STLPR reporting, leans skeptical with fears of big government overreach, Big Brother. That's definitely a cause for concern, clashing with crime-wearing residents hoping for a change. Policy shifts. The board's priorities, whether enforcement-heavy or community-focused, remain undefined, impacting their trajectory. So, is this going to help? Is this going to hurt? Or is this just going to continue as normal? Are we not even going to be able to see any difference when it comes to the people that live here? If you are from KC or know someone in KC that has an opinion on this, please let us know about that. I'm curious to see how Kansas City has felt, because I believe they've had this for a handful of years now, in relation to how it was before. On to good news. St. Louis Blues, baby. I believe, are they at a 12-game win streak as of last night, I believe? 12-game win streak. Or was it 11? Didn't they play last night? Am I mistaken? Okay, so they set the franchise record with 11 straight wins. They were tied with 10. What was it in 20? When did we have 10 wins in a row? When we last won the cup, I believe. Yeah, during that's right, 2018, 2019 cup year. Has it already been that long? That's crazy. So it's already been, what, 7 seasons since we won the cup? It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. That was all the way before COVID. Amazing. So Blues are absolutely killing it. On a hot streak during arguably one of the best times of the year to get into a hot streak, because, of course, we're approaching playoffs. So Blues are killing it. Show some love for the Blues. And what's really been annoying the past couple of days, especially since the Cardinals started playing, is I've seen like no news about the Blues going like 9 wins in a row, 10 wins in a row, now 11. But I have been seeing photos every single day and everybody commenting about the photos of the supposedly empty, well, I mean, not supposedly, there are some photos of the stadium pretty empty, of Busch Stadium, right? And of course, they took photos like the one Sunday where there was storms, right? And then they posted photos of Monday's games where we had storms again as well. And it was a noon game. Who goes to noon games for real? I feel like unless you're a business taking like some clients or you're a retiree, it's kind of hard to go to a noon game on a Monday. But if you read the comments, it's very apparent the reason why, regardless of weather, that the people of St. Louis, the fans that have supported this team, are pissed at the front office, at the ownership group, Bill DeWitt and everyone else. And I think we've talked about this a couple weeks ago as well when Jim Edmonds went on the morning after and talked about how the Cardinals organizations essentially since COVID, and it seems like this is across the board as well, maybe not just the Cardinals, has become a lot less personal, right? It used to be the Cardinals is a big old family. Jim Edmonds went to opening day, but you didn't see a lot of the guys that you would normally see at opening day this year, which was very interesting as well. So I think the Cardinal management team is obviously not doing great because you see people not going to games that are pissed at management. And you have them pissed at management for a variety of reasons, right? I mean, we got Paul Goldschmidt and Arenado, not trying to really try and keep them, not wanting to spend money in building a winning team. We continue to have pitching issues. It's an absolute nightmare for the Cardinals. And it seems like they continue to raise prices, right? We have to deal with people breaking into our cars as we're parking downtown. So it's like you have all these obstacles now in order to just get to the damn game. Then you have prices that are expensive. Now, of course, there are tickets that are cheaper throughout the week, depending on like the type of day you go and things like that. But it's expensive to go to a ball game. Drinks are expensive. Tickets are expensive. Food's expensive. Everything's expensive. Parking's expensive. So with the Cardinals, we'll have to see what happens with viewership. The other big thing is me not being able to watch any game without illegally streaming it. Shout out MLB streams. In case you guys didn't know, you can go and for anything, MLB, NHL, NFL, you can I would suggest all you have to do, go to MLB streams, type in Reddit afterwards. Usually there's going to be a website called like MLB Byte, for example. So MLB Byte is what I use for MLB streams. And it's horrible. I need to apparently get Bally's or whatever and pay for that. But I'm like, it'd be nice if they just had it on a channel and I could watch it on my YouTube TV. That would make everything much easier. NHL streams, we got NHL Bite. So, yeah. If you want to find those, you can. It's not too hard to find a stream of those games. It's just annoying because you have ads popping up, trying to full screen it. I mean, it's not... UI is not there for, obviously, you to be able to use it properly. But if you do want to watch a game for free, obviously, you do have the availability to do so. If you want some help on that, just DM me. I'll shoot you some help. I suggest, though, if you're going to do that, using a VPN. There's a ton of good VPNs. And the sponsor of today, just kidding. They're not a sponsor. But I do use Proton VPN. Suggest looking at Proton. It's like $8 a month or something like that. Pretty nice. Use it on your phone. Use it on your laptop. Works well. Of course, we have the April 8th municipal election preview coming up. It's coming up April 8th. We have mayoral candidates in places like Chesterfield. Voters will also decide our major propositions across St. Louis County and St. Louis City and St. Charles County. This could be a chance to break down what's at stake. That's right. We'll have to see what happens with all of these local elections. And, of course, we have the mayoral election or preview still going on. So we'll have to see how those goes. And, of course, nationally, TikTok faces a potential shutdown by April 5th. I don't know if we have an update for this as of today, but I would assume that they just continue this going. Yeah, it's supposed to get shut down tomorrow. So Amazon submitted a bid for TikTok as ban deadline nears. Do we have the number on that? Do we got a number? It's odd we don't have any update. Trump, it looks like, really hasn't had anything to say about it lately, so we'll have to see where this goes as of the 5th, which is tomorrow, April 5th, Saturday. Faces a potential U.S. shutdown, of course. Trump, who once pushed for a ban, remember that? That was also right when it came out. Now wants it to stay, citing its role in his voter base. Interesting. Obviously, we have moguls like Stephen Munchin circling a Supreme Court ruling, upholding the law. So we'll have to see where this goes here tomorrow. We're gonna figure it out either here today on Friday or tomorrow, Saturday. CBS News reported a bunch of rise in RSV, COVID, and flu. Who cares? NASA astronauts returned. Shout out to SpaceX and figuring that out, getting those guys back, gals and ladies. Apparently, NASA didn't pay him for any overtime. Can you believe that? I don't know if this is true. I believe it is. Those 7 days or whatever they were supposed to be up there for. I don't even know if it was supposed to be 7 days. So absolutely insane there. Glad we got those guys back. It's good news. Other than that, we got some tariff news that has absolutely been just taking over. I mean, taking over the stock market. Stock market's obviously down. I've been waiting to just dump a bunch into VTI and VU. What is VU at? VU ETF. 467. I mean, we're down just last Tuesday. It was at 530. And it looks like it's continuing to go down today. Broke the 470 mark, continuing to go down. Of course, this sucks for all the people that are older. But pretty much all of the gains over the last year have been entirely wiped out. This is good news for people like me, though, that, of course, are looking at this from a long-term strategy, that now I can buy a bunch at a cheaper cost. The question is, where do we go from here? Market stability is, I mean, everyone's uncertain about what's to happen. Obviously, that continues to, show in the stock market. It was just last Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they were talking about it breaking 500, and it continues to go down. Now it's at 466. So I might have to end this podcast and go ahead and buy some stock because this is getting insane. I was going to wait for it to go down a little bit more, but who knows when it's going to stop going down and maybe start to go back up. But suggestion for all of those people out here listening, if you got a little bit of cash and you invest on a monthly basis, now would probably not be a bad time to pay attention and look at this, because like I said, the last year of gains have been wiped. And tariffs were just released, obviously. You saw Trump holding up his big board of all the countries. I don't know. There's a lot of sides to the aisle here. I'm not an economic expert, so I don't know what to say here, but I do know it's affecting the stock market. I do know that I'm young, and that anytime the stock market goes down significantly, especially like it's been doing lately, it's a great time to buy. Because hopefully I, live a long life. And I'm here to do the St. Louis podcast for 50 years. That'd be crazy if I'm still doing it in 50 years. They call me the Howard Stern of St. Louis. So yeah, interesting things going on nationally, locally. So we got, reciprocal tariffs, talks of trade wars, government layoffs. Economic slowdown. I've talked about this. Rising consumer debt. Continues to be on the story. Rising consumer debt, credit cards, autos, mortgages, softening labor market. Also, if you are on DoorDash and you are having to do essentially a layover or a layover. What's the word I'm looking for? Buy now, pay later. If you have to do a buy now, pay later for a DoorDash order, you can't afford DoorDash. Stop using DoorDash. For all of the people in a bunch of credit card debt continuing to use DoorDash, stop using DoorDash. Drive to the place of business and pick it up yourself. It's not like your 5 minutes are that valuable. It's insane that people are doing buy now, pay later on DoorDash. Absolutely crazy. You obviously can't afford DoorDash if you have to do that. People don't know how to create a budget. Create a budget. If I were you guys right now, I'd be creating a budget. If you don't have a budget. I talk to people double my age, 60 years old, that don't have a budget. Don't have one. Never had one. Most successful people do. I know that for a fact. They know all the money they're spending, where it's going, how much they can afford. That's what we got for today. Let's go Blues. Let's go Cardinals. Let's see that stock market continue to go down. I know that hurts all of you older people, and I'm sorry. I'm just looking out for myself, We've had so many gains over the last 3, since COVID, that I missed out on a lot on. Now I'm going to get my time. Now is my time to shine. If you're listening to this, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm stupid when it comes to most things, as I'm sure you guys know after listening to this podcast. But, I have a little bit of intelligence in a lot of things, and that makes me think I know more than I usually do. And then I sit here and talk about it for 40 minutes when half of what I'm saying is incorrect. But, this is for entertainment purposes, right? We're just here trying to have a good time. We've got some good guests lined up over the next couple of weeks. Going to a wedding tomorrow. Shout out Andy Kors. He picked the best weekend to have a wedding. It's going to be raining. Apparently that's a good I looked up like what do you call it? Luck. It's actually apparently good luck if it rains on your wedding. Of course, it sucks that it rains, but it means like it's good life. It's going to be plentiful, which is cool. But I was giving him stuff. We're going to the Piper Palm House in Tower Grove, then over to Cranesburg Arts Foundation. Should be fun. All the boys from high school and college. It's going to be a fun time. If you're out tomorrow, don't come there. I'll tell you about it next week. Then in 2 weeks, we got Alex Dietrich, who's been on this podcast. We got his wedding out at Sunset Bluffs in Washington, Missouri. That'll be a fun time. A lot of weddings this year. Happy for all my friends. Now all my friend group needs to start having kids, I guess. And as I sit here saying that, I am single. It's funny how that works. All right. That's all the time we have for today. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. Please, again, as always, like, review, subscribe, leave a comment, do all the good stuff for us. Let's blow this podcast up. Let's get people to know about the stuff that's happening here locally, especially. It's absolutely crazy on some of the things that are going on that are maybe not 100% impacting you personally on a daily basis, but it is impacting your money and people in the city that you live in. Please reach out to Half Coast Studios here where we record. You can record in person with them. This is the studio. They're working on a new studio, which should come out. I think they're going to actually have 2 different studio rooms, 2 different studio setups here later this year, which is going to be awesome. We're excited for that. You can reach them at halfcoaststudios.com. Of course, if you just need help editing, distribution, posting clips, things like that, they can help you out as well. So visit them at halfcoaststudios.com. And of course, Vi Media, the best damn marketing company on the planet. I'll say it every week. You can visit us, at vi.media. We offer free marketing consultations, strategies, and audits for anyone that comes in. If you just want to reach out to us and talk, chat, need some help, have some questions, you can reach out to us at, of course, Vi Media. Or if you just want to message me personally, Eric Kempf Brown across the board. You can find me on all of the platforms. Appreciate everyone's support, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmers insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE. Career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast.